All right guys, so I just picked up this John Deere 2653A. This is a trim and surrounds mower. Does not currently run. It is the liquid cooled diesel. It's got a hydraulic leak up here, so we're gonna have to replace one hose. The first thing I want to do before I even think about that is get it running. The reason that I jumped on this deal was a couple reasons. Number one, I paid $200 for it. And number two, it's only got 120 hours on it. So this is a trim and surrounds mower. It is not a greens mower. Being that it's a trim and surround mower, it should still get down to like 1/2 inch or so, which is plenty low for what I want to do with it. Reels are in good shape. It was obviously stored outside. Might have to replace some of the parts around the reels. There was one roller that I saw that had blown out bearings, so we might have to replace that. But other than a little bit of rust and a missing seat, it looks to be in good shape. So yeah, I picked up a battery for it, so that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to grab a battery, throw it on here, and just take a look at things and see what the heck's going on. All right guys, so as stated, the first thing we're going to do is throw a battery on here. Got a wire right here that is cut, so that's not the best start. But I picked up a battery on my way home, so I'm going to grab the battery, throw it on there, and we'll install it, see if we got power anywhere, see what happens. All right, so this battery is a little bit big. That's all right. There wasn't much selection. I got my adjustable hammer. To make this install happen. I don't have much time today to work on this, but figured I got a little bit of time, might as well see if I can get a little bit done. Lots of corrosion on these battery cables. So the guy I picked this up off of got it from an auction, and said he fiddled around with it for a little bit and never could get it running, so he just gave up on it, which is why I got such a good deal on it. I think it was a good deal anyways. I guess we'll find out. All right, and before I hit the key, I'm going to make sure it's got oil in it. It does have oil in it. I got not a thing. Got a battery light when I do that. That's glow plugs. So I guess the next step is going to be see if I got any voltage at the starter. This thing's also missing a couple of screens. There's supposed to be a screen here, a screen on that side, and a screen in the top. Doesn't have any of those, but that's all right. We can source them. Where's my multimeter? Make sure this battery that I bought's got enough charge on it too. It should, but yep, it's got 12.7 volts. All right, I got nothing to the starter. So my guess is we got a bad starter relay to start off with. So I'm going to go and get the manual and look at that a little bit before we go any further. Figure out where the starter relay is and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be back with you guys in a moment. Trying to check the simple stuff, make sure that I don't have something goofy causing this. Is fuse. Or something along this line that goes to the starter. Culprit be on the starter relay. So after doing some investigation, I read the service manual. If you're doing a project like this, it's a good idea. Most of the time you can find them for free. I unfortunately had to pay for this one, but most of the time you can find a service manual. That's what you want to look up, is a service manual, not an owner's manual, a service manual. It'll walk you through troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff. But what I found is there are 3 sensors that have to work before it'll allow the engine to turn on. One of them is the seat safety switch, and then there is a parking brake safety switch and a neutral safety switch. Of those 3, the only one that was working is the parking brake safety switch. So I bypassed the seat safety switch and I bypassed the neutral safety switch. So I'll zoom in and show you how I bypassed this neutral safety switch. So if you see this green wire right here, all I did was put the green wire into both of the leads of the switch right here and complete the circuit, and that bypassed it. It now thinks that it's in neutral, and it is in neutral. It just, the switch itself isn't working. So I did that on the neutral safety switch and the seat safety switch, and reconnected a couple of connectors down there on the starter that weren't working, that weren't connected, and hit the key and it turns over. But as soon as it started turning over, you'll notice there's cat litter all over the ground. As soon as it started turning over, oil started dumping out of it. So I had to figure out where that was coming from, and it turns out that the oil filter had been crushed and there was a giant crack in it and it was leaking oil everywhere. So went and picked up a new oil filter and some oil. We're going to change the oil on it while we wait on the relay that controls the fuel shutoff to show up. And that should be here tomorrow. And then hopefully once that gets here, we'll hit the key and it'll fire up. But in the meantime, I'm going to change the oil, change the filter. We'll make sure it fires up tomorrow. And then once we know the engine's good, we'll start digging into this other stuff, the reels, fixing the safety switch, and we've got a hydraulic leak, like I mentioned before, that we're going to have to get a new line for. But yeah, so let's get into this oil change. For the purposes of doing the oil change, I'm going to pull this reel out so that I have better access up in here. So to do that, there's a pin that just pulls right out, and then I should be able to slide the reel back and off of its little arm right there. Now that's out of the way, I'm going to put this pin back in the arm so that we don't lose track of it. Need some pig mats from Diesel Creek. Alright, so I'm hoping that this filter's not over tightened and I can get it off by hand. If not, then I'll have to figure it out. Came off pretty easily, so can't complain about that. You guys can see the back of this oil filter is all tore up. I don't know what happened. It looks like somebody hit it with a freaking hammer. So we're going to replace that. I got a Wix filter to replace it with, and then we're going to use Shell Rotella. Rotella? I don't know. We got Shell. I don't know. I'll say it when I see it. We got 15W40 oil to put in here though. So get the drain plug and empty the rest of this oil out of this thing, and should be good to go. I'm gonna walk you guys through what we did to get this thing back up and running. So the first thing that we did was bypass a couple safety switches. The neutral safety switch and the seat safety switch both had to be bypassed because neither one of those was working correctly. And when we did that, fuel pump turned on, so I knew we were making progress when I turned the key on. So then the next thing we did is hit the starter, and nothing happened. So we started looking at the starter solenoid in the starter, realized here's the starter solenoid right here. There was a wire disconnected from the starter solenoid, so we reconnected that, and there was another wire that was damaged on the starter solenoid. Put a new terminal on that, put that back on. Then when I hit the key, the motor turned over, but nothing happened, so it tells me we're not getting fuel. So next point we looked at was these wires right here, which you see we kind of have them jankily hooked up right now. I'm going to fix that today. The starter solenoid was not clicking, or the fuel shutoff solenoid, which is what this is, was not clicking and allowing fuel to go to the motor. So I tested these wires. There's a 12 volt constant, which is this wire, a ground, which is the black wire, and a momentary, which is this white wire. And basically the way that it works is you hit the starter. As it starts, it triggers a relay which puts 12 volts through here, opens the solenoid up. This 12 volt wire holds the solenoid open until you turn the key off, at which point the solenoid closes back up, shuts the fuel off, so that the motor will stop running. So what I found was with the old starter solenoid, which is right here, if I hooked it up and just bypassed the momentary switch, the motor would start and it would run. So I did that a couple times, and then as you can see right here, this burned up. So I ordered a new starter solenoid. It had a different connector on it. That's why we've got these janky connections going on right here. Hooked that up, and still there's not the momentary 12 volts coming here that we needed to get this thing to run properly. So after reading the schematic, what happens is there's a relay right here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'll show you in just a second. There's a relay right here that has 12 volts constant when you turn the key on, but it doesn't have a ground until it reads oil pressure from the oil pressure sensor, which is buried down in there. And so when you turn the key on, it reads oil pressure, which creates the ground that clicks the relay over and gives this the momentary 12 volt signal to open the fuel shutoff solenoid. Once that fuel shutoff solenoid opens, you're good to go. So tested the relay in different places and determined that we had a bad ground at this relay. And after chasing wires down, what I did to bypass that was I stuck a paper clip up in the ground, hooked it to the negative battery terminal, and immediately it fired right up. So chased wires around, didn't see any obvious issues, and came up here to the dash, and there's a fuel or an oil pressure light. Well, that light has to be operational for the ground to be completed. It's a stupid design, but what I did was took the light bulb out of the battery because I knew that one was good, that one came on, put it into the oil pressure socket, and as soon as I did that, it starts right up now, no problems. So I did some looking on the hydraulic schematics, and there's a pressure relief valve in the steering column. It's that nut right there on top of the steering column. Sorry, I'm getting used to this gimbal. This nut right here is a pressure relief valve, and I'm thinking that this is probably the culprit. I'm thinking that it's stuck, because it's actually gotten better as I've worked through it. But I'm going to pull this out and clean it off and put it back in and see if that solves our problem. I've determined that the hour meter is not working, so it doesn't have 120 hours like I thought. But not a big deal to me. All I cared about was that the motor ran, and the motor runs. Cutting units are still in pretty good shape. I mean, they've got rust on them obviously, but nothing that a wire wheel and some paint can't fix. So I'm still very happy with the price I paid for this thing, $200. I really don't think, I mean, I know that the motor is worth 5 to 10 times that $200 mark, just being a running Yanmar 3-cylinder diesel. So hydraulics, it's very important that everything stays nice and clean. I don't see anything obviously wrong with this thing, but I'm going to go ahead and clean it off real good with some contact cleaner and then put it all back together. It's certainly a possibility that there's something in the cylinder itself that's causing the issue. But I have a rule when it comes to working on things. And it says you start with the easy thing first. Contact. Still got a hard spot in there. Well, that didn't solve our problem. So I guess the next step's going to be pulling the cylinder off and looking through it. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to get into fixing this clip so that we've got good permanent power there. So let me go get my kit and I'll see you guys back in just a second. Alright, so this is the clip kit that I got. It's just automotive connectors. It's got 2 and 3 and 4 wire connectors in here and all the little pins, and then some retainers and the little grommets that you put on the underside of the wire to make them all waterproof and whatnot. So I need a 3 wire connector. So it looks like one of the crimps goes over our little yellow thing and one of them goes over the wire. So pretty straightforward. Pull a couple of these yellow things out and we'll get to making us some connections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like the square ones go on the male side and the other ones go on the female side. So pretty straightforward. See if we can't get this done without screwing it up. So I'm gonna get a pair of scissors and cut some of this clear insulation back. Alright guys, so I picked up a new steering cylinder. This came from China. Came from this company, Quanji. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But they have, if you're looking for parts for one of these tractors, it looks like they have just about everything. And they're about 1/3 of the cost of getting stuff directly from John Deere. So it came with new nuts, new cotter pins. Only thing it doesn't have on it is the hydraulic fittings themselves. So I will swap the hydraulic fittings over, throw this thing on there, and hopefully we'll be good to go. I'm gonna grab some pliers. Came with plugs where the hydraulic fittings go as well, so that's good. The new one actually looks like it's more robust than the old one. I'm gonna clean this fitting off because it got a little dirty sitting out here. I got that on and tightened up. Tighten this fitting down. I loosened the fitting up so that I could twist that part a little bit and get it to line up how I needed it to. This should be good to go now. I'm gonna fire it up, work the wheel back and forth, get the air out. Hopefully we don't have any more hard spots in the steering. But if we do, we'll dig into the next thing that had to be replaced anyways because it was leaking. But hopefully that solves both of our problems. I gotta bypass this neutral safety switch again. For some reason this wire likes to fall out, so I've just been pulling it out. And setting it where I know I can find it. There we go. So I gotta get one more cotter pin in, and then we'll call this one good for now. And actually, I don't like the way this is sitting, so I'm gonna adjust this fitting up here. Because right now it's crashing into the frame just a little bit, and I don't want that because that'll create a wear spot. Where's my other adjustable hammer? There it is. Hydraulic lines are expensive. I don't want to wear this one out. I don't know if John Deere just wasn't thinking when they did this or what. This is an incredibly hard nut to reach. It's not good when you can't reach your nuts. Sturdy down there. You see the back tire now turns lock to lock, no issues. No hard spots. If I had to guess, that old hydraulic cylinder was bent a little bit, and that's what was causing our problems. The seal, it was just dry rotted, so that's why it was leaking. But I guess the hydraulic cylinder had a little bend in it, and it was causing a hard spot. But we're good to go now. It's working the way it should. So that's going to do it for this episode of bringing this old girl back to her former glory. So as you guys have seen, we got it back running. We got the steering fixed. There's still lots of outstanding issues. We've got the hydraulic line up there that is busted, and these reels all need to get gone through. So in the next video, what I'm thinking I'll probably do is get a replacement hose for that one that's obviously blown up there, throw that on, put the reels back on the I guess the lifting arms is what you would call them, and fill the tires up, drive it around, check, make sure everything's functioning the way it should, reels come on, there's no other leaks that I see. If all that looks good, we'll take the cutting units off and start going through them. But that's probably going to be a fairly in-depth process. Probably take me a decent amount of time to get those gone through. So I was able to find one air plenum, which is what they call this piece that goes here. It's one big piece. It wasn't in that great a shape, and it was $300. It's a discontinued part from John Deere. It's one of the few that's obsolete for this year model. So I'm going to look at coming up with a different solution for that. I don't think it's worth spending $300 on a piece of plastic that serves, this purpose can be served in another method. One other thing I want to do on this is we discovered the hour meter is not running. I want to put a new hour meter on here. Obviously it's not going to be accurate to how many hours are on the machine. The only thing I'm concerned about is for the maintenance intervals. I think the oil is supposed to be changed every 100 hours, which I don't know if we'll even get 100 hours a season out of this thing, but if we do, I want to know so that I can change the oil. Also kind of want to be able to look at the hours and guesstimate how much fuel I've got in here, because you run a diesel out of fuel, it's a whole process to get it primed back up and all that jazz. So I think it'd be beneficial for us to put a hour meter in here that works. So I'm going to do that. But yeah, I'm happy with the progress so far. Hope you guys found this entertaining. If you did, please be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button. So the views are growing every week, and it's really cool just to see the channel progress and grow, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in every week. We're gonna have more exciting content on this coming up, and we're getting ready to pre-germinate seed for the front yard and throw that down, and so we're gonna have Monaco Bermuda grass in the front yard that we can walk through that whole process too. So thank you guys.